All right, hello, Phillies fans. Welcome to Bleav in Phillies, episode 26 for you today. I'm James Biernat, joined as always by Phillies Wall of Famer Mike Lieberthal. Mike, it was a series loss against Arizona. They dropped the final three games. The last two games in that series, Phillies did not look great. Got hit pretty hard. Different guys got hit pretty hard throughout. But overall, a lost series. They ended up that road trip, game under 500, which is a little bit worse than they, I think, had hoped. But overall, not a terrible series, all things considered. But let's break that down for start. Colby Allard pitched in game one where they got the win. He looked really strong. I was kind of surprised they optioned him because it's good to have a guy that can give you innings out of the bullpen, especially with Taijuan coming back for game one against Miami. But anyway, we'll talk about who's replacing him in a little bit. That was a good win, though. They won 6-4. Game two, they lost 3-2. That was the Adrian Del Castillo walk-off home run. How about that kid? He was raking all series long. I think they said he was the first catcher to come up in his first three games have 6+ hits, and he had, I think, 7 hits over his first three games. So he was nuts. And then, yeah, game 3 and 4, game 3 and 11-1 loss. That was kind of rough. Nola struggled. Junior Marte got rocked. And then yesterday, the 12-5 loss, 18 hits allowed. Sanchez allowed 12 of those. The offense looked a little slow. So overall, not a good series in Arizona. But Mike, what did you see?
Yeah, really tough road trip. It was nice to take 2 out of 3. There were some good signs. Schwarber had the 3 home runs in LA, which is pretty exciting. Winning that first game in Arizona. Some guys are starting to hit. Harper's starting to hit, there's some good signs in the lineup. Just got to get, like JT needs some at bats. So, overall, I thought, it was just a tough road trip to come into when guys are struggling. The pitching's been struggling. The offense has been struggling. So it's just kind of it's gonna be nice to get back home, get everybody on track.
Yeah.
It's just one of those dog days of August, and
Yeah.
guys aren't playing well right now. So we just hoping that 4 weeks from now, you guys will be back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be good to have Taijuan back, even if he's not still at 100%. It'll be good to have just another arm in the rotation. It's going to be Taijuan and Tyler Phillips for the first 2 games against Miami, and then Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and then probably Chris Sanchez and Taijuan again in Washington if all things go well. We'll talk about the home stretch coming up in a little bit, but let's start with who's hot, who's not, because a guy who had a really good series in Arizona that we had talked about struggling before then was Bryce Harper. Kind of found his footing a little bit in Arizona. He hit 429, a double, a home run, 3 walks, and only 3 strikeouts. He had a 1244 OPS. To me, at least from watching Harper, he looked just a lot more confident, a lot better timing from him at the plate. But what did you see from Bryce?
Yeah, he's back on the fastball, which we said before he was kind of late on his timing. His fastball, he was under pitches and he was late. Now he's back on time, going the other way. He was kind of robbed on that ball to left field against the fence. What a play.
Yeah.
Gurriel made, but it was great to see Harper really on the fastballs and driving it the other way. That's when he's going best, and it was good to see in that Arizona series.
Yeah, no, Lourdes Gurriel, that one play was huge, although you worried a little bit about his lower body. He left that game with an injury. But, yeah, that was a fantastic catch. Definitely tough for Harper because he had hit one very similar area earlier in the series and it had gone yard, and then that one doesn't. So, but good for Bryce to see a little bit of a comeback there in Arizona. I'm sure he'll continue his hot stretch at home. Another guy who's just been really solid most of the year. We've talked about him most of the year. He's really come into his own as a hitter this year is Alec Bohm. In August so far, he's played in 10 games. He has 14 hits, 5 doubles, a home run, and 7 RBIs. And so he's hitting 318 over that stretch. And overall, he's kind of just been the guy that, you need a hit, you need an RBI. You saw at the beginning of the game yesterday, they got Turner on, they got Harper on. And what does Alec Bohm do? He does what he does best. Line a double up the middle, drive in 2. He's an RBI machine. He's a double machine. I don't know how many he has right now, but he's, I think, just 1 or 2 short of Mike Schmidt's all-time third base record with 45 doubles in a season. I think he'll surpass that and some. But what have you been seeing from Bohm at the plate? Because to me, at least, he's looked fantastic, just very under control.
Yeah, he's Mr. Consistent the whole year. He can take some nasty pitches, some pitches on the corner, whether they fastballs or sliders, and just hit that line drive to right field to get that RBI hit. He's a double machine. It seems like he can probably hit 30, 40 home runs if he wanted to, but he's kind of keeping his average up. He doesn't have quite that many home runs. I mean, I think he has, 13 or 15?
Over 13, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he could, if he wanted to pull the ball and he wanted to hit more homers, he could. But I love his approach at the plate. Lots of doubles to right center. That's the type of hitter he is. He stays on pitches. That's who you want as your four hitter, right behind Harper, a guy that does not strike out very much, a guy that goes the other way. He's really tough to pitch to. Guys try to come inside, off the plate, just to keep him off the outside part of the plate. He's, it's kind of like guys should take a book and watch him hit a little bit. Guys like Turner, who's pulling off the ball a lot. JT's pulling off the ball a lot. Harper was, so now finally Harper's going the other way. It's, Bohm is just, typical how you want to hit. I mean, he really stays through the ball, inside the ball on most of his approaches.
Yeah, he's looked great recently, and I mean, his approach is fantastic at the plate. It's been that way all season long. Truly a breakout year for him, and it's been great that he's been able to, he hit to start the year. He's continued hitting pretty much throughout the year. He had one or two cold stretch in there, but he's going to probably finish the season with hitting 300, over 100 RBIs, over 50 doubles. Those are great numbers from a guy, really just a true production guy, which you love to have in the lineup. So good for Bohm. And then the final guy for who's hot I want to mention is Carlos Estevez. 5 games as a Philly so far, no earned runs allowed, 5 2/3 innings pitched. He got the save game 1 in Arizona. And overall, I've just liked what I've seen from Estevez. He's kind of, established himself as maybe he's going to be the guy that's the closer, especially with Hoffman having some shaking outings here and there. Jose Alvarado's kind of strayed away from that closer spot. Same with Matt Strahm. So I like having a guy like Estevez close out the 9th. He's looked very in control.
Yeah, he's a guy you can count on throwing strikes, and that's what you want as a closer. I mean, a guy throws 97 with pinpoint control, with a nasty slider. He knows how to pitch. He has a veteran presence out there on the mound. He's what you need in the 9th inning, a guy that you can rely on throwing strikes.
Absolutely. And reliability is so key for this Phillies rotation. You've got guys that usually you can rely on who are maybe in a bit of a slump right now. Kerkering hasn't been as great recently. Still overall, he's been good, though. And so having Estevez is key for the Phillies to kind of finalize and really solidify that bullpen. So you love to see that. But let's take it to the who's not side of things and start off with Bryson Stott. Really did not have a good series in Arizona, has not been hitting well for a little while now. And overall in August, he's played in 8 games, only has 3 hits, so he's hitting .097 in August so far, Mike, with a 323 OPS. Those numbers to me are at least a little concerning. You've got guys like Edmundo Sosa on the bench who have been playing pretty well, who could always slide into that lineup. But at what point do you start to say maybe we see Edmundo Sosa a little bit more regularly? Because Bryson Stott's numbers for a little while now have kind of been disappointing. Obviously, he's an elite fielder, but the offensive production just hasn't been there. So what have you been seeing from Stotty? How can he maybe fix that approach? I know we've been talking about him a lot recently, but what can he do to try to improve his game right now a little bit, especially at the plate?
Yeah, I mean, I love Stotty's patience. Obviously in the field, he's excellent, but it just seems like his swing's a little long. He's pulling off the ball too much. He's hitting too many fly balls under pitches that are kind of above the belt. He's pulling off. I mean, he's swinging at a lot of pitches that are way off the plate inside. That's when guys are really pulling off the ball. He's trying to get, maybe the head out a little bit. He's a little late on fastballs. He just seems like he's just a little long at the plate, and he's a little weak, with the bat right now. It just looks like he's tired. I hope he keeps his patience. That's kind of been his key to hitting. He's a really patient hitter. So if he can still generate walks, still generate his on-base percentage, then he's still going to be productive up there. So I'd hate to see him kind of press and start swinging at, too many pitches that are off the plate. But if he can keep his patience and, really shorten his swing just a little bit and start going the other way, I think that's what he's probably working on. But it just seems like he's still a little bit long at the plate. He's just hitting too many fly balls.
Yeah. And another guy who's kind of looked a little uncomfortable at the plate recently is Brandon Marsh. Since the All-Star break, he's played in 21 games, and he's hitting 149 with a 485 OPS. Both those numbers obviously not where he hopes to be. But on top of that, he's striking out so much. And Brandon Marsh right now is He's moved himself down in the lineup a little bit. Topper's been making some changes here and there to try to get the offense going. There was no one really was scoring too much in Arizona, so you need to make those changes. But Marsh is a guy right now that's struggling a lot. He struck out at 36.5%, which is a very high rate since the All-Star break, and just kind of, like I said, looked a little uncomfortable out there, looked a little just off, not what you usually see from Brandon Marsh. So from your point, Mike, from your point of view, where is Marsh at, and how can he try to fix the little slump he's in?
Yeah, Marsh is in between right now. We know he's a great fastball hitter. We know he's not a good off-speed changeup hitter. He gets a lot of off-speed pitches, but really, who cares? Hit the hanging breaking ball, but stay on the fastball. And right now, he's taking fastballs. He's late on fastballs. Now he's in between. He's swinging at obviously the off-speed pitch that's in the dirt with 2 strikes. He's still getting obviously a ton of off-speed. Everybody knows the book on him, but he is not hitting the fastball. And when you're kind of in between, that's his strength. And he's taking fastballs that are away for strikes. He just seems like he's a little late on, his pitch to hit. And, when, you take away his strength, which is hitting the fastball, then he's really going to be in a slump. So I think right now he just needs to hit the fastball. I don't care if he doesn't hit a breaking ball. I don't care, he's going to get a lot of breaking balls. I don't care, but you will get those fastballs, and you got to hit. Stay with your strength. Stay on the fastball. And I think that's his key, just in between right now. And he's just maybe looking for breaking balls, and now he's giving up his strength. But, he'll be back. I think, Marsh is a veteran player.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Mike. I think that's well put. It's Brandon Marsh. He's not going to hit the off speed super well. He's going to punish the fastball when he's good. Right now, he's not doing that. So I think just getting his timing right. Maybe he works with Harper. Maybe he works with Schwarber. Those are 2 guys that are the best in baseball, really, at finding that good timing. So hopefully he's able to get out of the funk he's in right now. Taking it to the pitching side of things for who's not, Christopher Sanchez pitched yesterday. I got a chance to watch his whole start. And really just from the start, he didn't really look like he had it. He was leaving way too many pitches over the plate. He threw 4 2/3 innings, 12 hits allowed, which was 4 more than his previous career high of 8. 7 runs, 2 walks, so 14 total base runners allowed, and only 4 strikeouts. It was kind of just an off day from Sanchez. He looked really good in Los Angeles when we last saw him. He's going to have that shaky start once in a while. He is a younger pitcher, but it was a little concerning seeing him yesterday. He just did not look as confident or dominant as Chris Sanchez usually does. But what did you see from Sanchez yesterday, and what can he do to bounce back against the Nationals coming up in a few weeks or this week?
Yes. Sanchez, we've seen from the very beginning of the season, when his fastball control is off, that's when he gets in trouble. When he gets him behind and counts with his fastball, when he leaves his fastball over the middle of the plate, that's when he gets in trouble. He's never quite had his fastball command, even from the beginning of the season, even when he was pitching well. His bad starts are, just kind of erratic with that pitch. When he's really pounding the guys inside, right-handers inside with his fastball, he's really good on the other side. Throwing inside to left-handers, his changeup was still, even though he had a bad start the other day, his changeup is always good. It's, he relies on that, but he has to get ahead with his fastball. He has to have a little bit better control with his fastball, which he didn't, and Arizona took advantage of it. He left some fastballs down the middle over the plate, and they did not miss. Sometimes you get lucky, and, hitters and teams, they're just not hitting that, that fastball that they get, and he gets a little lucky. But sometimes, you roll that dice enough, you're going to get hit. So he was just over the plate way too much.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw from him. And it was interesting yesterday because they faced Merrill Kelly, who's obviously a veteran, but Merrill Kelly was not locating his pitches incredibly well. The broadcast kept mentioning that. But then you just said, sometimes you get a little lucky. The Phillies couldn't really hit Merrill Kelly, but the D-backs could definitely hit Chris Sanchez. He did not have that kind of luck on his fastball where he could get a few misses you might not normally get. It's a Diamondbacks team that's red hot right now, especially on the offensive side of things. So, you don't feel too bad for Sanchez because he is a very talented pitcher. He's an all-star pitcher. He's going to bounce back from it. But yeah, like you said, that he just did not have it. He left too much over the plate, and they made him pay for it. So hopefully he'll bounce back against the Nats. And the final guy for who's not is Junior Marte. Yikes, that was a rough one, Mike. A kind of just implosion of Junior Marte, 7 runs allowed, and he only got 2 outs. But since the All-Star break, he's pitched in 7 games, has allowed 16 hits and 8 walks. and on top of that, 13 runs. So that puts him at a 15.26 ERA since the break, a 12.03 OPS against. People are putting up video game numbers on Junior Marte. He looks a little bit like batting practice out there. Not what you want to see from him. And that was why them optioning Colby Allard was so interesting to me, because they did it before the Junior Marte kind of explosion in Arizona, but he had been struggling coming up to that, and he's not really a guy that can give you multiple innings, where Colby Allard has looked good out of the pen. He could give you multiple innings. So that was interesting to me. But going back to Marte, Mike, what's been the biggest thing for him recently that's been leading to these flaws and these kind of explosions?
Well, that was the reason why he was sent down in the first place early in the year. His control. We love his stuff. He throws 97 miles per hour. He has a really hard slider. When he's throwing strikes, he can be pretty nasty, especially on right-handed hitters. He's just his control. His control is just, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, sometimes he can have a couple good innings, and like I said, you like his stuff. He's throwing hard, and it just the last couple games we've seen his control. He kind of loses control, gets behind in hitters, and he's got to throw strikes then, and he gets hit. But overall, he's always had those control issues.
Yeah. And it's hopefully something he can fix up on this home stretch. The Phillies are such a good team at home. Hopefully they're able to find it and bounce back a little bit, especially against the Marlins, which is who they're going to be facing first. They haven't released who the Marlins starting pitchers will be for either game yet. Originally, Kyle Tyler was going to pitch game 2 in Miami. He's now a member of the Phillies organization. They just claimed him. He'll be coming on the show later, which we're excited to talk to Kyle. So you don't know what you're going to see in Miami pitching wise, but the thing is, there's not a lot of great pitching to go around in Miami. They really don't have a super talented starter. I think Valente Belozo could go in game 1. He's been the best of their bunch so far, but really this is a Marlins team that is pretty thin. They've got a few guys on offense who can really hit. Jake Berger has been raking the ball recently. He's got 22 home runs on the season. Xavier Edwards, who's a young 24-year-old shortstop they called up, he's got 16 stolen bases, and he's hitting 357 in about 40 games since getting called up. So they have a few guys, but this is the Phillies at home taking on the Marlins, who are one of the worst teams in the National League. Phillies are coming off a tough road trip. The Braves and the Mets are kind of lingering behind them. They still have a pretty healthy lead, but you have to think with this home stretch coming up, it's a time to win some games and really beat up on these lesser teams they're going to be facing.
Yeah, it's going to be curious to see how Walker throws, how many, if he's on a pitch count at all, how his split finger is working, his fastball velocity will be something guys, people are going to be watching. Tyler Phillips coming off a really, kind of a couple tough starts. It's been curious to see how he does in the second game. The Marlins are a very aggressive team. They do not walk. They strike out a lot. They do not steal bases. They have a low team average, so they're going to be swinging early in the count. They're going to be trying. They're not up there to take, so you're going to see a lot of swings. Aggressive team. So it's going to see what kind of what we have out of Walker. Like I said, how his split fingers working, and Phillips. I mean, we're not going with our two best, against the Marlins, and I'm glad that we are playing the Marlins, a team that does not really hit well. With our two guys that are. We don't know what we're to expect from Walker, and we don't know what to expect from Phillips right now. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully they can put up some 2 good starts.
Yeah, well said, Mike. I agree. I think there's a lot of uncertainty going into this Marlins series. Taiwan obviously going to pitch game 1, Tyler Phillips in game 2. Phillips was able to get the win in Los Angeles in the final game of that series, but didn't look his best. He hasn't looked great since the shutout. In Taiwan, we haven't seen since, early to mid-June, so it's been a while. He's coming back. They're hoping he'll be back to maybe the Taiwan Walker we saw last year, that if nothing else is a guy that can win you games and be an innings eater. So hopefully he's able to come back and, like you said, take advantage of this Marlins team that swings at a lot of pitches. They're very aggressive at the plate, but they don't have a lot of great results at the plate. So this is the time to take advantage of them, try to win both those games at home, and then a 4-game set starting Thursday night against the Nationals. Wheeler's going to pitch game 1, Nola in game 2, and then they'll figure it out from there. I'm assuming Sanchez game 3, Walker game 4. or maybe someone else comes in and pitches a game, depending on how much rest they want to give Taijuan. We shall see. But it will be interesting to see both those series. I think this is a good time for the Phillies to, like we just keep saying, take advantage of these lesser teams. And with that, we're going to take one more segment, and then we have a special guest joining the show. For Fresh Phillies Faces, though, I want to discuss some of the new guys coming to the Phillies. So first off, Cal Stevenson. He was the outfielder they called up from AAA to replace Austin Hayes, who was put on the 10-day IL with a left hamstring injury. Shouldn't be too long of a injured list stay for Mr. Hayes, but Cal Stevenson's a guy that can bring some electricity. That's the word I think about with him. He is a very fast player, 27 stolen bases in AAA this year, and a 907 OPS. So it will be good to see Cal Stevenson. Maybe he can give them some sparks. He had his first hit as a Philly yesterday. And then they also called up Max Lazar, who is a 25-year-old righty, had a 179 ERA and 13 saves across AA and AAA this year. They brought him in to replace Colby Allard, who was optioned. He so far has given them 2 scoreless outings, which has been good. But Mike, those 2 new guys coming into the team, how do you think that impacts the Phillies right now? And how do you feel with some more pitchers coming back soon?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you have Marsh that's kind of struggling. You have Rojas. Actually, got to give props to Rojas. He's been looking a lot better at the plate. I think he was hitting over his last 10 games 357. His defense has been excellent over the last week or 2 weeks. He's just, I'm impressed with what I've seen from Rojas, which is nice. It's something that they need with, like I said, with Marsh struggling right now. So, and Stevenson, I just saw one game and he can really run. He's a fast runner. I love the stats in AAA. So he can give you that option too if, they need to sit Rojas or sit Marsh or, they need those options in the outfield with, you have 2 bats so that really haven't done a whole lot over the last few months between Rojas and Marsh. So it just, I think it's definitely needed. They need a little bit more offense in the bottom of the lineup and, hopefully they can get that.
Yeah. Like you said, Rojas, he's hitting 296 since July 23rd, which is pretty good for him. About a few weeks there. He's been much better recently. I've liked what I've seen from him a little bit more. Obviously, the defensive value he brings, the speed he brings. So it's good to have another guy kind of like him and Cal Stevenson that can maybe bring some offense. They've found success with guys in AAA before with David Dahl and Cody Clemens. So maybe Stevenson will follow in their path. And Max Lazar as well. Hopefully he's able to stay strong and have some good outings. And then the final guy to mention, they just DFA'd Nick Nelson and picked up Kyle Tyler, who will be joining our show in a second. Kyle Tyler for the Marlins. That's where he was playing for the first half of this year. He had a 5.40 ERA in 8 games. 7 of those he started. The one number I really like on him, he has a 49% ground ball rate, which ranks him in the top 25% in the MLB, I Bleav. So a guy that can really get the ground out, guy that can maybe give him some innings. He has a good cutter, a pretty good curveball. But yeah, Kyle Tyler will be joining the show in just a minute, and we're excited to talk to him. I'm here today with recently acquired pitcher Kyle Tyler. He was picked up last weekend. Nick Nelson DFA'd, so Kyle Tyler was claimed off waivers. He'll be joining the Phillies organization. We're super excited to have him on the show. Kyle, I want to start it off talking a little bit about your upbringing and background. So you grew up in Oklahoma, about 25 minutes away from Oklahoma University, where you played your college ball with the Sooners. So can you talk to me about how special it was to be able to grow up in Oklahoma and then get to play your collegiate baseball career so close to home and for such a legendary program?
Yeah, it was great to be close to home. I mean, being able to have the family come out to almost every single game and fortunate enough to have them travel as well. It was definitely a dream come true. Both of my parents ended up going to OU and graduating from there, so I kind of wanted to follow in their footsteps and finally got the opportunity to say yes to go there and being able to go is definitely a wonderful experience. That obviously meeting guys that have played professional baseball and are still in professional baseball with Jake Irvin, who's with the Nationals still.
Yeah, it's a great program, and it's cool you got to play there and have the hometown crowd on your side, which is great. So while you were at Oklahoma from 2016 to 2018, the Sooners made the College World Series in 2017 and 2018. Can you talk about playing under the bright lights of Omaha? It's kind of a really cool experience and a unique experience where a college pitcher you're about to get drafted or you're getting ready to get drafted in a few years has the opportunity to put on a showcase in front of some big scouts and some big TV coverage.
So unfortunately, we never made it all the way to Omaha.
Yeah.
We were just in regionals. Uh, in 2017, we were in the Louisville regional, and I unfortunately did not pitch very well there. But I mean, it kind of, I would take it as more I was a little younger and a little less mature than what I should have been for that situation. And kind of just the game sped up on me. But I knew that it could have happened, and it just had to happen in that moment instead of regular season. But I feel like I learned a lot from that, and then took that into the 2018 regional where we were out in Florida State. I pitched in one of the first games after Jake Irvin against Mississippi State, and ended up throwing 3 scoreless innings, and then came in the very last game of that regional when we ended up losing to Mississippi State again, and threw another scoreless inning just to kind of close out us losing that game, unfortunately. But I feel like from the 2017 to 2018 made huge jumps in not only the maturity but just my stuff as well, and it definitely showed.
Yeah. And you mentioned before being able to share the clubhouse and share a pitching staff with Jake Irvin, who now obviously having a great first full season for the Nationals. But he's a good guy now. You've played with the Marlins for most of the year. Now you're coming to Philly. He's a guy in division. He's a rival. So have you stayed close with Jake over the last few years? And is there a little bit of some beef maybe between you two now that you got a division rivalry going on?
Definitely haven't stayed in contact as much as I probably should have, especially with professional baseball, the life that we live of always never knowing where you're going to end up and for how long. But no, I don't think there's really any type of beef. Maybe a little bit just being closer rivals now, but I don't think there's going to be too many hard feelings, at least off the field.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. And hopefully we'll get to see you guys face off at some point. Maybe this year, next year, we shall see. But I want to take it now to your MLB career. So you were a 20th round pick in 2018 after you finished up your time at Oklahoma. And then you made your debut a few years later with the Angels and threw 3 scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts in your debut at Angel Stadium. And I got to ask, it's a big game getting to play in front of the home crowd in your first game. How were the nerves going into that game, and how'd you battle those to have a really impressive outing?
Yeah, I definitely was extremely nervous, more for the fact it was the obviously debut, but I think it was more that there was, because of Otani and Trout, there were like 50,000 people in that stadium that day, even though it was a day game on a Sunday. But my first like 3 pitches were 7 foot over the batter's head, and I told myself, all right, calm down. And
Yeah.
I looked at where he was standing, and he literally was in the back corner of the batter's box, and I was like, oh, if I just throw it down the middle, he's never going to touch it. And sure enough, it threw 3 pitches right down the middle, and he ended up hitting one of them, but it didn't go anywhere. So I'll take it.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And yeah, that was my next question, was to talk about some teammates you had, but being able to play in front of such a big crowd at Angel Stadium is great. And that was still a year where they were very much in contention. But I want to ask you, so you got to play with the Angels in 2021, the Padres in 2022, and then the Marlins this year. And you've had some very impressive, notable teammates, Shohei Ohtani, Manny Machado, among others. So from your time in the bigs so far, has there been a guy where you've just been able to watch him play and you're like, this is another level. This guy is playing at a level that's above the MLB. He shouldn't be here. He's maybe a little bit too good.
Honestly, I probably Otani, just for the fact that when I was with the Angels, he was pitching and hitting and throwing exceptionally well and hitting almost as well as he is hitting now. But just watching him, kind of his day to day, that he never missed a chance to work out, never missed a chance to get his treatment in the training room, to hit off the tee, take ground balls, or whatever whatever it was. There was always something he could do, and he's also an extremely nice guy. So like that definitely doesn't hurt his case at all.
Yeah, he seems like an unreal guy on and off the field. obviously the talent shows with the probably his third MVP coming this year. But taking it from an opponent side of things, you face some tough hitters as well. Has there been a guy that's really stuck out to you as maybe your toughest AB so far?
Uh, Actually, yes.
Yeah.
New potential teammate, Nick Castellanos. I
Okay.
faced him twice whenever I pitched against the Phillies, and both at bats were like 13 pitches.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I ended up getting him out both times, but
Mhm.
still, just to not be able to get him out quickly it sucked.
And
It's a
yeah,
lot of extra work.
from a starter side of things too, which is the role you've taken on this year, I can imagine, you're trying to get into a groove, and then a guy like Castellanos, who's such a good all-around hitter, being able to battle off 13 pitches is a lot. That really throws a strain in your outing, so that's tough. But yeah, Nick's a fantastic hitter.
Yeah, and it would have been better because I played with Brandon Marsh as well with the Angels, and so it would have been nice to get him out, but I think he hit two doubles off me. So
Yeah, Marshy's a tough AB too. He's a very very patient hitter. So definitely cool that you had some experience pitching against those guys and now able to be teammates with them is really cool. So I want to talk a little bit about your transition because you came up as a reliever with the Angels and the Padres, and then after a season in the minors last year, you were a starter, and then this year got off to a really good start in AAA as a starter, and then obviously made 7 starts for the Marlins. So how difficult and what was that process like, kind of transitioning yourself? Because obviously you started in college, you started earlier in your career, but to make the transition from a reliever to an MLB starting pitcher, it's not an easy one. But how was that for you?
for me, it wasn't too awful bad. Like you said, I've been a starter my entire career, and it was only when I got called up by the Angels that I was a reliever. Is because the GM for the Angels called about halfway through the season in 21 and was like, "Hey, we think Kyle has a chance to get fast tracked to the big leagues if he becomes a reliever." And so I went from that starting role to a reliever, and it kind of obviously it worked because literally a month and a half later I was in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of off and on with the Padres as being a reliever or a starter in AAA. And then last year they just kind of were like, you know what? We know that you've been a starter forever, and we kind of want to see where you can go with that. So that's what you're going to do this year.
Yeah.
And it kind of played into this year, and I like the starting role. It gives me that routine that I love.
Yeah, I can imagine it's definitely better for routine because you're a reliever. You never know when you're gonna really have that opportunity to come into the game. It could be back-to-back days. It could be you have 4 days off. So I understand that from you. And for Phillies fans now who maybe aren't super familiar with you, I want you to break down your repertoire a little bit. Talk about the pitches you've thrown through your career so far, how they maybe have developed, and where you hope your pitches to be by the time you're hopefully making your first start in Philadelphia.
So I throw a four seam fastball that's has cut ride. So almost like the Mariano Rivera cutter or a Kenley Jansen cutter fastball, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I have a two seam fastball that I added this year. Just kind of something different to go the other way rather than the cut. A slider that still always been a work in progress. As more of a sweeper than a true like slurvy slider, I guess.
Yeah.
And then a big 12-6 curveball and a work in progress changeup as always. But I know because being a big supinator like I am, changeups are kind of a little difficult for me just to kind of get that true pronation to get it over there. But been working on it really a lot this year, and I think I finally found something that'll click. And just kind of have to see how it goes in games.
Yeah. And I mean, you found success this year with a lot of your pitches. Obviously, the cutter, I like the Kenley Jansen, Mariano Rivera comps. Those are definitely some favorable ones, some good company to be in. But yeah, the cutter is definitely a great pitch. And from what I've been able to watch you play, it's been something that's very effective, obviously. And good to hear that you're working on your repertoire to kind of get more command over those pitches, which I'm sure Phillies fans are very pleased to hear. And so I want to ask, you've had 3 MLB seasons kind of under your belt now, or at least parts of seasons. Has there been a moment or a story or something that's happened throughout your career so far that you're very sure is going to stick with you for the rest of your career, kind of a moment you'll never forget?
Uh, Probably pitching in 22 in Wrigley Stadium with the Padres. Was able to get my very first big league win. Uh, I truly didn't expect to kind of come into the game, and I came in. We were down, I want to say like 9-2 or something like that, or 6-2 in like the fifth or sixth inning, and I threw a first inning, got out of it pretty quick, and I came in and the pitching coach was like, "Hey, we feel okay? You want to go out for a second one?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So went out for that second inning. I want to say it was the seventh, and I finished that inning. They're like, "Hey, that's all. That's all we're gonna ask of you today." And got very lucky that the offense decided to hit a little bit that inning. So I think they ended up scoring like 9 runs,
Oof.
and yeah, so it was pretty nice to see that, to kind of congratulate everybody as they in the dugout as we went. Uh, but ended up winning that game like 9-6, and so I got my very first win. Ended up getting a lovely beer shower in the locker room after. But probably that because I grew up a big Cubs fan, because just because of my dad, because him when he was growing up, that was one of the only teams that he could actually watch on TV.
Mhm.
So I just kind of grew up a Cubs fan as well, and so to not only be able to pitch at Wrigley, but to get my first big league win there, it was definitely a dream come true.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Wrigley is one of the parks that I haven't been able to go to, but one that's top of my list, and such a space kind of cool space to play in, like a baseball mecca, kind of like MSG for basketball. So you love to be able to get a first win there. That's a really special moment, and I'm sure something that'll stick with you. So I want to transition kind of into the final part I wanted to talk about, which is a little bit of a transition in energy that you have coming for you. So Miami obviously not having the greatest season right now. They sit in the stellar of the NL East, and it's been an interesting year because there's been a lot of roster turnover. Um, there's guys in and out. Josh Bell was there for a while. He's now gone. Jazz Chisholm, Trevor Rogers, guys like that. And so you're coming from a Marlins team that really has a stadium that doesn't get packed too much, a team that's kind of in a very rebuilding phase, to a Phillies team that's right now in very much in the hunt for the World Series, and the bank obviously maybe the most electric place to play in professional baseball. So how are you feeling going into this transition? Do you think it's going to be, maybe do you see some possible like struggles involved with that, or are you just excited to hit the ground running and play in a new atmosphere?
I'm definitely ready to hit the ground running, and I think it's definitely going to help my time that I did get to pitch against Philly with Miami, that I got to see the stadium to not, I wouldn't say it was completely full, but
Yeah.
full enough that there were 40,000 fans there. So
Yeah.
I got to experience the energy that they bring, especially from the opposing side. I can only imagine how much guys feed off of it from the home side.
Wrapping it up, do you just have something that you're most excited for about playing in Philly, possibly spending some more time in Philly? Is there something you're really looking forward to?
I think just definitely playing for the Phillies, playing for a team that's in playoff contention, and that get excellent crowds, both normal day games and weekend night games against teams that may not be good, or teams that are, like you said, division rivals. And
Yeah.
it's just, I'm excited to see the atmosphere and feel the energy from the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're saying all the right stuff that I'm sure Phillies fans are excited to hear, Kyle, and it's been a real pleasure talking with you today. We want to thank Kyle Tyler for joining the show. It's great talking to him, and thank all of you for listening. Again, I want to promote a little bit. We have our 2 live shows coming up at the end of this week on Friday night at 5:15 p.m. We will be going live from none other than Citizens Bank Park, doing a little Phillies pregame show. So if you're at the game on Friday, come say hello. We're going to be talking all things Phillies leading up to that game. Aaron Nola starts, and it's a 6:40 game. And then the next day at 12 p.m. Eastern time, we will be interviewing a bunch of Phillies alumni before all the alumni weekend festivities. We have Doug Glanville coming, obviously Phillies icon and great broadcaster, Aaron Rowand, Randy Wolf, who's an all-star. So we've got some good guys coming. Hopefully a few more will be stopping by the show. But with that, I think that's all we have for you here in episode 26. From Mike and I, thank you very much for listening. And Mike, as always, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, until Philadelphia, James.